Did you know that many beaches around the world, like in Hawaii for example, are mostly made of parrotfish poop? Yep, we're starting today strong, because while you might think sand is purely a geological thing, that's not always true. Turns out we owe a big thank you to certain fish that can produce up to 800 pounds of sand per year, just by, doing their thing. So yeah, you probably know where this is going, but today's episode is all about fecal matter. Yep, that's right, poop. So yeah, if you're eating right now, which weird timing to click on this video, maybe finish your meal first. Hey Gustave, with the experiment we're starting today, we're going to be saving a lot of drinking water. You down for this challenge since it's, something good for the planet, resource saving? Awesome, cause yeah, if you held in your number 2 and didn't flush the toilet for 3 whole months, you'd save about 260 gallons of water. That's a lot. So, seeing as you clearly care about the planet's future, I'm guessing you're totally on board for not going number 2 for the next 3 months, right?
Okay.
So, 3 months from now, is Gustave going to look 9 months pregnant? Will he be in pain? Is holding in your poop for that long just weird or actually dangerous? Let's find out right now in today's big topic. 3 months without pooping? What's it like? Let's kick things off at the 24-hour mark. After 1 full day without going number 2. Holding it in for 1 day might feel a little uncomfortable for some people, but it's definitely manageable. So nothing out of the ordinary. Most people need to relieve themselves anywhere from 3 times a day to 3 times a week. So only 1 day in, we're still well within the normal range here. But as the days go on, the risks are going to start stacking up. Basically, anyone who's ever been constipated has probably had this kind of experience at least once in their life. But for some people, it's not just bad luck, it's actually a choice. Yep, you heard that right. Take Lamar Chambers, for example. He took on the exact same challenge as Gustave, but for very different reasons. He deliberately put the brakes on his natural flow, let's say, even though he didn't have any medical condition, constipation, or otherwise. His problem wasn't with his body, it was with the law. He was suspected of quite literally hiding drugs in his intestines to deliver them to a client. So, a judge had him placed in custody and ordered customs officers to keep an eye on his, digestion in hopes of finding the evidence. The cops were basically just waiting for him to, deliver the goods. But Lamar wasn't having it. He made up his mind. As long as he was locked up, he would not go number 2, period. And if I'm talking about this specific person, it's because his story is going to be following us for the rest of this episode. Anyway, we're gonna skip ahead in time a little bit to see how Gustave is doing at the end of a week. It's now been a week that Gustave has to hold it all in by force, and he isn't feeling well at all. He has a super strong urge to go number 2 all the time, because you see, anyone can hold in their need to poop for over a week when you're constipated, but it's a whole other beast entirely when your digestion is working normally. Unsurprisingly, resisting this urge is accompanied by a lot of pain, mostly around the stomach area. Keep in mind, a person typically produces about half a pound of fecal matter a day. That's 200 grams. And the thing is, our dear Gustave here is continuing to eat, unlike our good buddy Lamar Chambers. And after just 7 days, Gustave's intestines are now home to a growing mass, weighing in at about 3.5 pounds, which is a lot, especially to keep held up in your gut. Unfortunately for him, the worst is still yet to come. We've hit day 15 of the challenge and Gustave is still in a lot of pain. But weirdly enough, his urge to go number 2 is starting to fade away. Basically, he doesn't have to clench his cheeks 24/7 anymore just to hold it all in. I know, not the most poetic way to say it, Sorry, but I'm just keeping things real. At this point, if you do the math, if after 1 week there was 3.5 pounds of fecal matter piling up in Gustave's gut, you might assume after 2 weeks that there would be about 6 to 7 pounds. But that's not exactly how it works. No offense to Lavoisier, who once said, "Nothing is lost, nothing is created, everything is transformed," but this is a bit of an exception, and we're not really at 6 or 7 pounds. And the reason is simple. Once stool is just sitting around in the colon long enough, it's it starts losing water or dehydrating a bit. Therefore, it loses weight as well. But here's the problem. The more the stool dries out, the harder it becomes for it to move through the intestines, and the more painful it is to pass or release these poops. This hardened fecal matter can build up to the point of completely blocking the colon, and yes, because I know you're definitely wondering, this rock-solid blockage of fecal matter has a medical term, of course. It's called a fecaloma. So yeah, Gustave didn't start out constipated, but just from holding it in, he's ended up that way.
And honestly, that's what happens to a lot of people all around the world with apopathophobia.
Yep, behind that fancy term are people who are afraid to go number 2, and it's especially common in kids. Sometimes all it takes is one painful experience, often due to natural constipation, and the fear sets in and stays. They start holding it in out of fear, and boom, constipation becomes a long-term issue. It's a vicious cycle. And then they're in the same mess as Gustave with all the consequences that come with it. We're now 3 weeks into this challenge, and Gustave is absolutely miserable. Despite the dehydration from sitting around in the colon, Gustave's fecaloma keeps growing and gaining weight and growing some more until it starts to take up way too much space in his abdomen. Just take a look at this shocking x-ray. All that dark area? Yeah, that's poop waiting to get out. The problem is your large intestine can get seriously stretched out by all that built up waste. And that's when we start talking about megacolon syndrome. Yep, that's an actual medical term. Just like the fecaloma, it becomes a vicious cycle. The more your colon stretches, the weaker and less toned it becomes, which means it struggles even more to move things along. So things just keep getting worse, and Gustave is far from done suffering. We're now a month and a half into our no pooping challenge, and that's exactly how long Lamar Chambers managed to hold it all in. Yep, remember that guy in jail where the police were waiting around to check his poop for drugs? And for those wondering if he finally gave in or if he ended up getting charged, nope, not even close. His health was really starting to take a hit from his anti-pooping protest, and in the end the police had no choice but to release him so he could receive medical treatment. It honestly seems like a desperate way to dodge an inspection, and yet it worked. Unbelievable. So, did he actually have drugs hidden in his intestines? No one really knows, although we all have our own suspicions. All we do know is that the guy was in bad shape from not eating and being extremely constipated. But it's actually 10 times worse for Gustave since he's been eating normally this whole time during the challenge. At this point, he's even a little bit incontinent, and I mean urinary incontinence. Hey, Gustave, I think you dropped your pen. You can pick it up, right? His colon is so backed up that bending over puts pressure on his bladder. At this stage, the symptoms of extreme constipation can vary a lot depending on the person. It's kind of a lottery. It all depends on where the fecal mass decides to settle. In Gustave's case, and for a few other unlucky folks in the same kind of constipation, the mass is pressing on his iliac artery, cutting off sensation or feeling in one of his legs. This is really starting to get concerning, and we're only halfway through the challenge. It's now been 2 full months, and Gustave is somehow hanging in there, but his health is seriously in trouble. At this point, the constipation is severe. We've basically crossed the point of no return. This is where some patients have to get the fecal mass removed medically under general anesthesia. That actually happened to a patient in Australia who claimed he'd only been constipated for 3 days. Sure, he hadn't pooped in 3 days, but the truth was his intestines had been slowly filling up for months without him realizing. Sometimes you manage to go a little and you think you're fine, but really that's just a tiny piece breaking off while the main blockage keeps growing. So yeah, for Gustave, we're way past the easy solutions. And just so you know, a fecal mass this solid can literally start crushing nearby organs as it expands. For example, one unfortunate 92-year-old woman ended up with a rectum that stretched to nearly 6 inches wide, which is absolutely massive. She eventually had to undergo surgery to remove part of her intestines, and doctors created an artificial opening, otherwise known as a stoma, because her natural organs just couldn't function properly anymore. But wait, it gets worse. Another elderly patient had her intestines rupture from the sheer hardness of the fecal blockage. That led to a condition where gas escaped from her intestines into her body, and the gas started traveling under her skin. This is called subcutaneous emphysema. Yeah, I know, that one's a little technical. And we're not even getting into the cases where the bladder ruptures or where kidney failure becomes a problem. So yeah, once your gut gets this is blocked, things can spiral out of control in pretty extreme ways. As for Gustave, he's at risk for pretty much all of these complications we've just talked about, but I can't tell you exactly which of his organs are in danger because he's been strictly forbidden from calling for help. This experiment has to go all the way to the end, so nope, put that phone away, don't even think about calling 911. Come on, champ, hang in there, only one more month to go. And here we are, the grand finale. It's officially been 3 months since our guinea pig last went to the bathroom for number 2, and shocker, he's in absolutely excruciating pain. I'm not gonna lie, at this point, I'm wondering if Gustave's fecaloma is about to break a world record. Just look at him, he literally looks pregnant from the side. For now, the world record goes to an Asian patient who apparently hadn't gone for months and months, maybe even longer than months. The poor guy had to have 2.5 feet of his intestines removed, and that section alone contained, brace yourself, 30 pounds of poop. You can see the creature on the screen. Look away if you're squeamish, it's rough. I've been comparing this to pregnancy the whole time, but honestly, this is way worse. A baby usually weighs what, about 6 to 8 pounds at birth? At 30 pounds, this thing weighs about 4 times that. Hey, Gustave, what's wrong? Oh, well, okay. I think the picture really shocked him. Ah, never mind. My mistake. It wasn't shock. He just died. It's a shame, really. He was so close to the finish line. Now, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm surprised. I kinda saw this coming, especially since there was actually a case of a British teenager who died from constipation back in 2013. I should say, though, this is extremely rare. It's not something that happens often. In the case of the teenager, she had a gigantic fecaloma, and she let things go for so long that her ribcage and internal organs actually shifted out of place. Her body got weaker slowly but surely until one day she passed away from a heart attack. Yeah, your digestive system isn't something you can ignore forever. It's not optional, it's absolutely necessary to keep it in check. That's why doctors always recommend eating plenty of fiber and drinking lots of water so that everything keeps moving as it should and you have no issues producing your excrement regularly. Your poop stays soft and easy to pass. So, if you're having trouble going number 2, don't just wait it out, definitely go see a doctor. Because in rare cases, when things are completely blocked down below, the contents of your intestines can actually start coming back up. Yeah, that's called fecal vomiting. You throw up your fecal matter. No joke. So yeah, as taboo or gross as digestive health might seem, it's just as important as anything else. And again, don't panic, these are very rare cases. Hopefully you learned something useful today, and more importantly, I really hope you weren't eating while watching this. See you next time for another deliciously weird experiment.